Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. Thanks for checking out my channel. Today, we're going to talk about a Western, which I'm pretty excited about, given my getup. I don't have a cowboy hat. I probably wouldn't have worn it because it'd probably mess with my hair. We're going to talk about Jordan Peele's 2022 film Nope, which I just watched for the first time this weekend. I'm not a huge horror aficionado by any stretch of the imagination. But I saw that it was on Amazon Prime and it had gotten a decent reception. I didn't know a ton about it other than it was about aliens, and I like sci-fi. It's a movie that's kind of hard to define genre-wise. It's like a sci-fi western horror movie, but it's suspenseful, not really horror in the sense of jump scares and there's some gruesome murders. I don't know. It's suspenseful, but not horror in the sense of serial killer or demon possession. It's an alien, but not an invasion, just one. So I thought, I was just getting to my review right away. I thought the film was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. After I finished watching it, I said to my wife that I have not enjoyed watching a movie like that in a while. So I really enjoyed kind of the spectacle of the movie. People have referred to it as Jordan Peele's Spielberg movie. It's very Spielbergian. Just kind of the spectacle of the sci-fi movie, the UFO as a major character, Jean Jacket as it comes to be known. But I really loved it from a mental health perspective too. I thought it was really interesting. It had a couple different commentaries, and people have written about the symbolism and the allegories in the movie, and I think it's all very fascinating and interesting. It's a very well done movie when it elicits that much conversation around the way it's shot and how it's shot and what the scenes mean. But I thought it had a lot of interesting things to say around mental health and how we kind of process traumatic events. As with most stories of a fictional nature, a lot of them center around trauma. And so talking about trauma, but it is one of the secondary characters who I thought really had the interesting storyline around trauma. And so that was Ricky Jupe Parks. Parks? I should double check these things. I did. Just Park. Just one Park, not Parks. Ricky Park is the character's name. He was a child actor in the fictional show Gordy's Home, in which Gordy is a trained monkey, and there's a birthday celebration, a balloon pops, and Gordy, this monkey, goes crazy and kills a bunch of people. And so this character, Jupe, as he's known, is this child actor, kind of famous from the show, lives through this horrific trauma, and then seems to kind of just be exploiting it for the rest of his career, almost as a self-exploitation. He has a bunch of memorabilia from Gordy's Home. It's got a weird cult following online that he's very proud of, but he's running a weird a theme park around ranching. So that's very much cashing in on his kind of childhood fame, but not still in the acting world, not still doing things. And he very clearly has trauma. He dissociates at one point in the film that I thought was fairly realistic. I think maybe you think of Breaking Bad with dissociation because Walter has a dissociative fugue, which is a lie, separate topic. But he just kind of zones out. And for some people, that's what dissociation is. So he's talking about the traumatic event. He's got this polished, kind of capitalistic sales pitch around it that he gives on this. Again, this monkey is murdering people who he works with, and he's hiding under a table. And so he's talking about, he's reliving it, and he's talking about it, and he kind of zones out, and he's got to snap back to it. I thought that was really interesting, and just the exploitation. He never gets over it, right? His brain doesn't process it in a healthy way. And when we talk about things like trauma is always about safety. The brain gets triggered in a way that says something I'm experiencing isn't safe, and then the brain coming out of that unsafe experience or that adverse event, the brain doesn't get to feel safe. So it just stays in that kind of a heightened arousal state where things aren't safe. It's in usually fight or flight mode. And we also talk now about freeze being an option or fawn being an option. But that heightened arousal state where something isn't safe and the brain goes to that very quickly. Again, I've talked about it before, but it's the brainstem is what's making decisions. It's knee-jerk reactions. It's instinctual. It's not our higher processing in the frontal lobe. It's not our brain using critical thinking or using past events to make well-informed decisions. It's just kind of that instinctual lizard brain type response of like, am I safe or not? No, I'm not safe. So fight or flight mode. And he's still very much in that. And it's fascinating to kind of watch how his character handles then another unsafe event, where he almost has taken the wrong message from the trauma with Gordy's home, where he didn't learn from this wild animal, the monkey, even though it was trained, being set off and killing a bunch of people. And there's a very poignant shot where he just, the movie opens with like the after effect. You just see this monkey kind of like roaming around with blood all over. And it's a great opening shot because you don't know what's going on yet. So that was a great way to set up the film. But then later in the film, he's reliving the event. This is when he's dissociating, and it's much more horrific than how he kind of like playfully, cheerfully talks about it as like this fun fact he lived through. So he's under the table, and it shows, and this is done for a reason in the movie. It's to highlight like not looking in the eyes of a wild animal. So there's a barrier. He's looking under the table, and the curtain or the table covering is in the way, so he's not making eye contact. And the monkey, Gordy, goes to fist bump him, and then the monkey is very dramatically shot right in front of him as it's reaching out to fist bump him. And so again, probably a way that this animal was trained to interact with people to show like connection or affection, or it's probably a skill. You know, I've got dogs. One of my dogs was Canine Good Citizen certified, which is one step below getting trained to be a therapy dog. And so, you know, sit, down, speak, shake, all those things. Like, again, we have these things that we teach animals. They know how to do it. They're not necessarily doing it because they want to. They're doing it because it shows something. So I'm guessing this fist bump was some sort of way where he showed like camaraderie, or he bonded, or it was very like human trait that he could have as a skill to show like, hey, we're good. And so it's interesting then how Jupe has this experience where he's about to fist bump this wild animal who just got off of a murderous rampage, like blood's dripping off of its fist as it's going to fist bump him, and then it gets shot. And so like horrific stuff. Trauma is what happens after the traumatic event. And so again, he wasn't really allowed to feel safe. He's hiding under the table. That's not safe. The way that he was rescued from this unsafe experience, also not safe. Like, and so then he doesn't like process it. And again, it's not his story. He's a secondary character. We don't get to see how he responds to it. We don't know if he went to therapy. We don't know any of this stuff. But how he comes out of it later when the UFO, which is called Jean Jacket in the movie, the UFO shows up, he has this kind of he has this idea that like he has a connection with wild or unexplained or uncontrolled things. And so he's horrifically kind of offering horses that he's getting from our main character, OJ. He's buying them from OJ's ranch because OJ's struggling to make money. So he's selling off his horses, not knowing that Jupe is then offering the horses to the UFO to eat so that he can create the show that he can exploit the UFO to have more people come to his little theme park. So it's like very sad, and that is kind of tragic. And like also he was just wrong, so he didn't have any spiritual connection to the wild. He wasn't like immortal. He wasn't like chosen to be safe from wild animals. Like he didn't have a connection. So he talks about how he has this connection with UFO, how he understands it and therefore he's safe from it, and then the UFO just eats him. So the UFO in the movie Jean Jacket is not an alien race. It's its own entity. Like it's a predatory animal. Predatory animal is how it's described in the movie. So it's just a single organism. It beams things up and eats them, and it has like, I don't know, innards. Like you kind of see its inner workings. It's not mechanical. It's like a feeding tube basically. It's like an esophagus crunching on things. And the UFO comes by and spits out the metal from things that it's eaten because it doesn't want to eat the metal. And so Otis Jr. Otis Sr. is killed by the UFO when it's spitting out a bunch of metal. So it's kind of like in a storm, and a bunch of metal falls from the sky, and it goes through Otis Sr.'s eye, and he dies. And so that's OJ's kind of tragic thing. And what OJ takes from this experience, and his experience as being a horse trainer, because he grew up on a ranch, is that like you don't take wild things for granted. Like you treat them with respect and you do what is safe. And so it's really an interesting kind of juxtaposition between those two characters, as far as like how one responds being like, oh, I'm untouchable, I can just do whatever because I've lived through this traumatic event and therefore I can handle anything, and doesn't really like process it in a healthy way, and therefore has dire consequences from that. And the other one who's like, there are things out there bigger than me, there are things that I can't understand, and I'm gonna take them very much with caution in mind. And I think if you've ever been around horses are like these beautiful, majestic creatures, but they're huge. Like I'm a big dude, and I'm used to being one of the larger people in like a room. I've played sports most of my life. Like I'm 6'3", so above average in height, and I'm just used to being like, if I see like an NBA player, I'm like, wow, that person's really tall, because it takes somebody who's that far outside of the norm for me to register as like being quite tall. My wife's 6'1". I'm just used to being around tall people. I play volleyball. I'm just around tall people a lot. And so the first time I was around a Clydesdale horse, I was like a little uneasy, because I'm a city slicker. I'm from Milwaukee, right? I grew up in the city. And here's this like gigantic animal that you don't really like see, and Clydesdales are huge, right? So they're like very big horse breeds to begin with. But horses are huge and just very powerful. The idea that we still take how strong a car engine is and base it off of horsepower speaks to like how important these animals were throughout our history. And so I think OJ, being a rancher, somebody who trains horses, he trains horses then for like Hollywood movies and shows. And so that's kind of the tie-in for him. His connection in the movie is he's got these horses that he trains to be in shows and stuff like that. So the whole movie is about exploitation, and kind of I think Jupe is an interesting character for that, because he has kind of the self-exploitation additional to the trauma piece. But OJ has trauma, and then his sister M also is in the movie, and I don't know, there's some interesting family dynamics in the show. She's around the ranch a lot less. She's trying to do her own thing, start her own career. She's got all these different things that she's doing in the Hollywood kind of world that she's trying to sell and pitch. So they have one scene together where they're going through like the safety pitch for how to interact with the horse on set, and she's late to it, and then she like promotes a bunch of her side businesses instead of talking about the ranch. And so OJ's kind of irritated with her, and she's kind of doing like the extroverted part of it, and OJ's not as comfortable with that, but he's far more comfortable with the horses than she is. And that's because, again, Otis Sr. passed away unexpectedly in this kind of tragic accident around Jean Jacket, emitting all this stuff out of it. And then there's another character in the show, his name is Angel. He's kind of the tech guy. So OJ and M are like, there's a UFO. Like, this is a UFO. Like, we need to get it on camera. How do we get it on camera? It keeps knocking out all the power. So they go to like, I don't think it's Best Buy, whatever fictional electronics stores in, but like a Best Buy type thing. And Angel works there. I don't know. I didn't really see anybody freak out about his name being Angel, but like I thought his name being Angel was interesting given how the movie ended. But like he's like, what are you guys looking for? Like, why do you have all this high-tech equipment? What are you going to do with it? What are you trying to record? This is pretty high-tech stuff. You can't. So like he's kind of nosy, but also is like, you're not going to be able to install it by yourself. And so he goes to set up, and he kind of like figures out that they're trying to catch a UFO on camera. And he's like super into aliens. He knows all this stuff about UFOs. And so he's super on board, and he very much just like rigs it up so he can watch all their cameras, because he also wants to catch the UFO. And so they talk about the Oprah shot in the show, which again is kind of commentary on like exploitation, where it's like this unsafe thing, but they're going to cash in on the experience. They're going to catch this UFO on camera and sell it, and then they're going to make a bunch of money off of it. So they have to set it up in a way. The UFO, which OJ titles a Jean Jacket, which I think is funny that the UFO gets named. Jean Jacket is kills all the power. So whenever it gets close, there's usually a storm because it's using electricity, and it's manipulating it's taking all the electricity out of the area, and that's creating storms. So like there's usually rain, and that's kind of what makes it a super suspenseful movie. Is like the clouds are moving, it's in the clouds, you don't see it a ton, but there's a scene where OJ's rescuing a horse because he's a good guy, right? He's protecting the horses where Jupe is exploiting the horses. Jupe is taking advantage of the horses and using them as bait. OJ is going out of his way to rescue the horses because the horses are innocent in all of this. And so OJ goes to rescue one of the horses, and then Jean Jacket shows up and kills the power. And so Angel's in the house and M's in the house, and they're trying to like survive because Jean Jacket's right over the house. They're unbeknownst to anyone, Jean Jacket has been eating the horses. And so my lights went off. There's a steel or concrete, some sort of like statue of a horse, and it's got a bunch of like flags attached to it, and that's for Jupe's theme park, and M steals it. I don't know that we're told why she steals it. I think I don't remember specifically why she steals it. And so Jean Jacket ends up eating that and doesn't like it because it doesn't like that stuff. So the flag gets tangled up in it. So Jean Jacket's very upset, and he's like basically vomiting out all this stuff that he doesn't want to eat anymore. This is after he's gone past the theme park. So he ate a bunch of people, and so he's got all these coins from the theme park and all their like watches and keys and stuff, and he's just spitting it out on the house that M and Angel are in because he knows they're in there, but he can't get them. Because he kind of uses like a vortex to suck people up. It's I don't know, like a tornado, I guess, inverted somehow. It's not like a sci-fi light that lifts people up. It's like wind. So he kind of sucks all these things up. So he can't get them when they're inside, and he's frustrated. And like that's very much, I think, the horror. One of the big horror scenes in the film is like they're in the middle of this storm. The UFO is just above them. OJ can't see anything. He's in a truck, and the engine's been killed because electricity's out, and it's raining so hard he can't see what's going on. But like the horses or the house is just being covered in like blood and guts and all this viscera, and then all the metal's coming through, and they're just like screaming in the house trying to hide. So that's very like horrific scene, and kind of like the classic, I think, like the house looks like it's bleeding. And so that's one of the, I think, more horrific, in addition to the Gordy's house stuff. The monkey killing people is pretty unnerving. We don't even see a ton of that violence. We kind of just see the monkey covered in blood, and then we hear a lot of it, and that's very unnerving. As a total side note, the movie does a really great job playing around with sound. So I was reminded of Alfred Hitchcock's movie Psycho, which plays around a lot with music and sound, and it kind of subverts some expectations around a horror film. So Psycho has like the very classic like sound when the killer is stabbing in the shower scene, the very iconic shower scene, and there's that like aggressive thing. But the movie, the first time I watched it, I was blown away by how quiet it is, because there's very unnerving parts of the movie where there's no sound at all. So like one of the characters is driving, and like it's just silent. There's no radio on. There's no sound of the car. It's just silent, and it's very unnerving. And I remember like really being blown away by the sound of silence in that movie. And I thought this movie did a good job with that too, where like there are parts of the movie that are very like quiet and distressing because of it. There's not suspenseful music. It's not like playing up on your emotions and getting you like ready for a jump scare. It's just unpleasant to listen to and kind of unnerving. So I loved that. I thought it was really great to kind of subvert the trope, but also play on like, as far as our brain is wired for like, yeah, we don't like that. Like that's unpleasant. So I really like that part of it. OJ figures out that Jean Jacket is an entity, an organism of itself. They have one of, I think, I'm looking up who played him. Antlers Holst is the character's name. He's a cinematographer who uses like really old IMAX, or like I don't know if it's IMAX or it's just really old film, but he's no electricity. So they're like, okay, we're going to get Jean Jacket on film. We need this cinematographer who can get the impossible shot. And he's kind of known for getting the impossible shot. and we see him. And Antlers Holst is a fantastic name, right? Like that's a great name for a character. We're first introduced to him, and he's watching these old like 35 millimeter films of like animals eating each other. So it's kind of like this predatory thing, and he's just like seems to be watching it for fun. Maybe he's editing it. I don't know. He might just be watching like old predatory animals, nature is metal kind of stuff. And he isn't super interested. And then he like figures out what's going on, and he gets very interested in getting the shot. So he brings all his stuff out, and then even he is like, he's on board. OJ, who's spent a lot of time around horses and given people who don't spend a lot of time around horses talks on how to be safe around horses, is like, all right, don't look up. Like, we can't make eye contact with it. It's a wild animal. Keep your head down. It's going to ignore you. It doesn't like flags because of its bad experience with the horse statue. Like, he has all these parameters in play for how they're going to handle it. They get all the car batteries from Jupe's theme park, because all these people have been eaten, so all their cars are still there. So they steal all the car batteries, and they get all those inflatable wavy people and put them out in their field so they can track when Jean Jacket is above them, because it'll kill the car battery, and then they'll know that Jean Jacket's there. And OJ goes out on a horse. He puts a bunch of flags on so that the horse and he don't get eaten. Excuse me. And it's this really good plan until Antlers Holst, our cinematographer, is like, I'm going to get the impossible shot. And he runs out of his cover with like a smaller camera, and he's recording as he's getting sucked up into the UFO. Jean Jacket eats him. And again, it's this idea of, and he talks earlier in the film about how your desire to get to the top of the mountain is going to be your undoing, because you're never happy when you get there. And so like he plays on that later by having this impossible shot. He gets the impossible shot, and then he wants one better of inside the UFO, and instead he gets eaten. It's kind of implied that the film survives, or at least the film he took on his other camera. So there is some shot of it. Angel also survives. He kind of wraps himself in barbed wire. There's like a TMZ reporter who comes in and almost bollockses the whole thing up, and he doesn't do well. He gets eaten. He has like a weird reflective helmet. So this idea of like chasing the fame, or like trying to get the impossible shot, or like risking yourself to meet this impossible standard, is one of the themes in the movie, and like avoiding or ignoring your own like standards, ignoring your own safety protocols in order to like go above and beyond, goes poorly for everyone in the movie. So OJ sticks to it, and M sticks to it, and they survive. Jean Jacket turns into an angel? Question mark. Jean Jacket's form changes, and like this is one of the things that I really loved about the movie, and I thought like the spectacle of it was so good, because it was still very like CGI, but basically like Jean Jacket unfurls and has like these kind of ethereal wings, and is flying in that way, and has this like almost like door that's flapping for its mouth, and it's unnerving in its like weirdness. It's very surreal, and I thought it was like very beautiful, like the way it was shot and the way it looked. It made for some really great scenes. I saw a lot of people talk about like biblical angels, and like biblical angels are horrific, right? Like they're not people. They're never described as like a dude. They're described as like 6 wings and 12 eyes, and like everyone's terrified of them because they're horrific Cthulhu type monsters, not because they're like people who are bright. And so the film opens with a passage from Nahum, which is in an Old Testament book, on how I'll make you into a spectacle. And so like the movie is commenting a lot on the spectacle, and so I think a character named Angel, and then Jean Jacket kind of transforming into an angel, was really fascinating. I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought it made for like a great progression. It's not just the UFO the same way constantly over and over again. And so then it all ties together really well, right? So Antlers ruins their plan, and he goes and gets eaten. The TMZ guy goes and ruins the plan, but he brought like an electric bike out, so M gets on the bike and goes away while OJ escapes on the horse. Lucky is the horse, who he had saved earlier. So like again, good for OJ, looking out for the horses. What a guy. we like OJ and we like the horses that he's protecting. I like animals, so biased for the horses in the movie. Um, and so M escapes to the theme park that Jupe owned, where it's been abandoned and everyone's dead and missing because G-Jack ate them all. So she goes there and she releases like this giant inflatable balloon man. It's supposed to be Jupe, I think, for his theme park. So it reminded me of like a Big Boy statue. For those of you who are familiar with what Big Boy is, I think that's a Midwest thing. But anyway, she releases this giant inflatable balloon and it makes eye contact with Jean Jacket, and Jean Jacket tries to eat it, thinking it's a giant person. And this is in like Jean Jacket's giant angel form, so it swallows the whole thing, and then the balloon pops, and then Jean Jacket pops, and it's just like implodes. And not like huge Hollywood explosion, just like kind of pops. And I thought that was really well done too, because it wasn't like Michael Bay, like how many explosions can we get? It was just like this thing trying to swallow this thing that it couldn't, and it popped. That's probably really loud in my mic because I don't have my windshield on it. That's the sound you're not supposed to make in microphones. Anyway, so then M's like using the old school theme park, like crank this crank and get a picture from our wishing well, or like winking well. It has some theme parky name attached to it, and so she captures the Oprah shot then of Jean Jacket in angel form right above the well in one of these shots, which is like highly unrealistic, but made for a great scene in the movie. And then as like the dust is settling and everything, she sees OJ ride up on the horse, and so like happy ending sort of for like a bunch of people being eaten by a UFO. But the characters that we like and the characters who are respecting the wildness of nature are the ones who survive. The ones who are interested in making money but not at their own expense, they're open to some exploitation but not totally, and that's part of their pitch in their Hollywood thing. Is they talk about the first motion picture ever filmed and how it's a picture of a black jockey on the horse. We remember the name of the guy who shot that moving motion picture. It's 2 seconds long of a horse galloping, but the name of the rider is lost to history. And so that's a plot point in the story, is they're saying like that's our great 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 grandfather, and so we've always been in Hollywood and we've always been working with horses in Hollywood, and so that's kind of our thing. And so again, it's this idea of like exploitation in Hollywood, and I think exploitation of the self, and the people who are sticking to their boundaries and have healthy boundaries around safety are the ones who survive. And so I thought that was really interesting as far as like commentary around how do people respond to trauma, how do people handle boundaries, how do some of the family dynamics play out between brother and sister, and when they have a cause that they're working towards, they can work together, but only if they're being safe, which M isn't at first, and she kind of comes around to OJ's way of doing things. But they kind of feed off of each other in a healthy way that brings out the best in each of them instead of like fighting about stuff. So yeah, I thought the movie, I thought it was a fantastic viewing experience. Like it was just a fun, well-made movie to watch, which I really enjoyed. But also I thought fascinating character in Jupe. I thought the Gordy's home subplot was really well done and was very fascinating. Based loosely off of a real event, like a real person, and I don't remember their name. I just saw it briefly online somewhere, who like had a wild monkey as a pet and like raised it and trained it and all this stuff, and then like some noise set it off, and it killed its owner. The movie also references Siegfried and Roy, who were magicians who worked with like tigers and lions in their show, and I think Roy was the one who got mauled at one point in his career. So again, just that idea of like even tamed wild animals are still wild animals. So I thought that was it was really fascinating. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of like little Easter eggs and things that are referencing other things, and a lot of kind of fun wordplay. So there's a lot that I didn't even dive into, or a lot of like things that I think people have done like hour-long YouTube videos or video essays on it, because I think it's a very rich movie as far as content goes and topics that you can kind of explore and topics that are being explored in it. But as far as like just also a fun movie, kind of a Western, kind of a horror, kind of a sci-fi mashup kind of thing, it was very well done. It was very well acted, very well shot and written, has some great characters, has some great character development. It was just an enjoyable film. So, nope, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the times where characters say nope in the film about something that's scary that they're going to walk away from instead of doing the horror film thing where they walk into it and then very much get murdered. So it was a lot of fun. As much as it's kind of like there's some grim and grisly stuff in it. It's funny too. Again, it's very well written. So a lot of things that are great in it. I thought it had an interesting character study around trauma, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. If you have seen it, but it's been a minute and you're like, oh, I don't remember that, check it out. Like, super great movie to watch, kind of with a heady mindset to watching it and like absorbing all the different things that are going on in it. Just a lot of stuff in there. So, great film. Check it out. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. See everybody later. Peace.